Hello, everybody in the universe of Facebook, and get ready to change gears. We're going to now actually start to hear the core Purana itself, which is part of what Vyasadeva compiled from the original Veda. So it does change gears a bit and becomes a lot more dense in the philosophical content. So Shuka, the speaker, looks into Parikshit, the listener's eyes, and says, "My dear king, the questions you've just asked about the origin of the universe are the same questions Narada asked." So what are those questions, in case you don't remember? Well, don't worry if you don't remember, because Narada's going to repeat them. Here, hi Melissa, hi Bhavana. Brahma, the very womb of the Veda, answered them by directly explaining what he had heard from Hari within his heart. So these questions about what the universe is, where it comes from, why it exists, where it goes, you can't get a better answer than from the person Abhishek, than from the person who manifested it and is in control of the universe. And that may be Brahma or it may be Vishnu, depending on your point of view. We're going to get the answer from both of them, because we're going to hear how Brahma explains what he comprehended from Vishnu. So now Shuka is going to begin to tell us a tale of Narada's conversation with Brahma. So this is Bhagavatam is a lot like an onion in the sense that it has a lot of different layers. So typically you have 3 layers. We always talk about Vyasa, who composed the core Purana, Shuka and Parikshit, who expanded it, and then Sutta and Shonaka, who further expanded it by explaining the conversation between Shuka and Parikshit. Well, Shuka and Parikshit, Shuka will often, part of the original composition by Vyasa is often other conversations. So you sometimes get this additional layering. So now we're switching into this layer where the story switches to Brahma and Narada at the beginning of the universe, relatively beginning of the universe. So this is before Narada had really figured out a lot of things. He approaches his father, Brahma, and said, this is what Narada says to Brahma: "O God of gods," because everybody that exists there is gods, but at that time in the universe, but Brahma was the creator of them all, the father of them all. So he's the God of gods. "You are the firstborn manifester of beings. My respects to you. You understand spiritual truths in great detail. Please explain them to me." So Brahma's happy to hear that, of course, right? Who wouldn't be happy to hear their offspring or son or student or whatever come to them and ask them questions about something they really know about? So Brahma says, where should I start? What do you want to know? And Narada says, "O capable one, please tell me the factual truths about this world. I want to know the facts and the truths, the real thing, the real stuff about this world that I'm in right now." And then he has some specific questions. What is its shape? Which doesn't necessarily just mean is it a ball, is it a triangle? It means what kind of form does it have? What are the forms in it? That's not good. What is its shape? How is it sustained, created, and destroyed? See, these are the same questions that Parikshit asked. How is it sustained? Why does reality hold together? How is it created? Why is it here in the first place? And how is it destroyed? Why and how does it go away? Where does it go? What is beyond it? Narada asks. And what is it made of? So those are Narada's questions. He wants to know about this universe. He wants to know the facts about the universe. Where does it come from? What's it made of? How is it made? How is it held together? And how is it disassembled? Brahma says, "Why do you think I would be able to answer such profound questions?" Now, even though if you know that you're able to answer those questions, you should ask your student why they think you can do that, to see if they have the right concept. Maybe they just go around asking everybody. In which case you shouldn't really waste too much time with answering them because they don't have a discerning intellect. I know everybody's really eager to find somebody who's going to listen to them, but if you're really a teacher, you don't just spout on and on to everybody. That's interesting. Abhishek has a good question. He says the need for medicine comes before the search for medicine. So why should the gods seek spiritual truth without experiencing chaos and confusion as we do? So why do you assume that they don't have confusion? You're going to hear in Brahma's story that he has profound, immense confusion. You have this wrong New Age idea that knowledge is inherent in the soul, and then it gets covered up. That's an incorrect New Age idea. Actually, ignorance is inherent in the soul, but the capacity for knowledge is there. And so even Brahma and even Narada, when they first manifest their being in the world, they're confused. So Narada's confused. What is this universe? Where is it coming from? So Narada answers Brahma. Brahma says, why do you think I can answer these questions? And Narada answers him. Says, you certainly know the answers to all these questions. I know you know these answers. Because you're the master of everything that has come into being, everything coming into being, and everything that will come into being. You are the guy who's putting all these things together. You're the blueprint designer. Your comprehension grasps the universe as easily as someone grasps a fruit in their hand. Just like you can hold a fruit in your hand and look at it all over, open it up, taste it, all that stuff. That's how well Brahma understands the universe. Because he's working with it just like it's a tool. He's working with it like it's a design that he's creating. Brahma says, well, you have a very high opinion of me. And Narada says, yes, because you seem to be completely independent. Now he uses this word seem. He says, you seem to be, so he has a doubt. You seem to be completely independent, the source of your own knowledge, your own maintainer, your own refuge. You're the firstborn being. So nobody made you. You have no mother, no father. So you seem to be the God of gods. You seem to be the source of your own existence, the source of your own knowledge, your own maintainer, your own refuge, your own foundation. So yeah, I think I have a very high opinion of you. I think you're the supreme being. Brahma is a bit surprised to hear this from Narada. Because he knows that that's not true, so he wonders why Narada might see it that way. So he says, what makes you say these things? Why do you say that? I am completely independent and I'm the source of my own existence and all that. So Narada replies, because you created all beings and all things on your own. By your own powers, just like a spider effortlessly produces silk. Right? Just like we grow hair. Brahma creates materials and principles and physical properties and all that stuff, and then puts them all together, or lets them, creates them in such a way that they form together by their own inherent powers. You created all the names, forms, and qualities of everything, superior, inferior, and normal. It doesn't seem possible that they could have any remote or direct cause other than your greatness. So that's what I basically said to you, right? Brahma is the original guy, created everything, nothing created him. So he seems to be the supreme. And Brahma is quiet and trying to think how he's going to address his son's misconception when Narada himself expresses that he does have a doubt about this, and that's why I use the word seem. He says, as Narada says, but as powerful as you are, you still underwent severe disciplines of meditation, as if you needed to learn something. So basically, this is your question, Abhishek. Narada is asking Brahma, you seem to be totally the God of everything. But the only thing that gives me a doubt is, why did you have to work for that? You had to work for that. So that means that if you have to work for something, it means you don't have it at first. So, That's why I'm not sure. That's why I say it seems like you're the God of gods. As powerful as you are, you still underwent severe disciplines of meditation as if you needed to learn something. It appears that you were lacking something, and some other source supplied it. So I have a troublesome doubt that you cannot actually be the Supreme Being. O Master of everything, knower of everything, Narada continued, please consider how to answer everything I've asked in a way that my intellect can easily understand. Wow, it just dawned on me how like the cults go with the humans who present themselves as incarnations of Vishnu. There's even one astrologer who's claiming that, and they present themselves as avatars or Jesus Christ, and people just believe them because they know how to do magic or something, or they can do tricks. So this is now, these are highly intelligent people. This is Narada looking at Brahma. Now, Brahma's got so much godly divine power that you would definitely say that he's the supreme being. But Narada's so smart that he realized that although you have all this incredible power, you still have to work for it. So I'm not sure if you're actually the supreme being. Now here's how Brahma replies. Brahma was very pleased and spoke with deep affection. My loving child, he said. Now Narada is super lovey. Brahma created different kinds of beings. The first ones he created was the Kumars, and they were quite scientific. They were very scientific-minded people, and they were a bit cold-hearted. Not cold-hearted, but they were a bit unemotional. And so then he created some people that were more emotional. Those are the Prajapatis. And then he created a person who was a perfect blend of the two, and that was Narada. So Narada is very emotional and very intelligent, and therefore Narada is the child that Brahma entrusts the subject of bhakti to, because you have to be both emotional and intelligent to really understand bhakti. So he describes him as my loving child. Out of compassion, you mercifully ask me these fitting questions. So this is another reason why Narada is asking these questions. As you can see, Narada kind of already knows the answer. He's hinting at the answer, but he wants this conversation to take place so that it can be explained to people. These are important questions, and they need to be answered. Out of compassion, you mercifully ask these fitting questions, which make me joyful because they remind me of the audience, darshan, I once had with the powers of the all-attractive. So Brahma, as a result of his extensive meditation, had a direct audience with the powers of Bhagavan. All of my powers are a result of that audience. The praise you have given me is not entirely false, my son. It's not that he's not the creator of everything. It's not that he doesn't know the universe like a person knows a fruit in his hand. It's not that he's not the forefather of everybody. But he says, so the way you've praised me is not wrong, but also your doubt in me is also not wrong. He says, the praise you've given me is not false, but it's also not wrong to doubt that I'm the supreme being. I made this universe. That's the truth. But your doubt that I can't be the ultimate cause of the universe is also correct. He says, I can make the universe shine only because that supreme being shines, whose powers I had audience with. I am like the moon, which shines only because of the light of the sun. Narada replied, as if he was shocked, but all over the world, people consider you the supreme creator. And this is a very interesting point that Brahma now makes. He says, bewildered by the insurmountable power of his illusions, selfish people prattle on like this. Their wits are dulled by constant obsession with I and mine. They respectfully meditate upon the all-attractive son of Vasudeva. So you say, I don't want to get wrapped up in these people's opinions of me, which are incorrect. They think that I am the supreme being. I don't want to get wrapped up in that nonsense. That's their own stupidity. And what he's saying is, they're fools in the grips of illusion. Fools in the grip of illusion dream of themselves. What does it mean to be in the grip of an illusion? It means the fundamental thing of being in illusion is to conceive of the self as something independent from the whole unit, the whole universe and the supreme being. That's the fundamental quality of ignorance, is separatism or divorce from reality. So because they think of themselves as separate beings from Bhagavan, they also imagine their heroes to be like that, right? They imagine their heroes to be, if you conceive of yourself as somebody independently strong, then your superhero in your mind is going to be somebody even more independently strong than you. So he's saying it's fools who think that my power shines on its own, like the moon can shine on its own power, because they are so stupid that they're moons and planets too, and they're thinking that they're producing their own light. So they think that I must be producing my own light. They don't realize that everybody's light comes from the sun. They don't realize that Bhagavan is the source of everybody's greatness and power. Okay, so now after getting that out of the way, Brahma's going to explain what the universe is made of. And this is what I really want to cover in detail today. This is where it switches gears and the information content starts to get really dense and you have to go slow. This is where you get to the kernel of the Purana, the things that the other conversations and storylines are setting up. So here's one super important topic in the Bhagavatam is what's the universe? So Brahma said he's going to explain now. He's going to explain over several paragraphs, but I think today we'll just cover this first paragraph, which is a summary of the whole explanation that he's going to give. And in the upcoming explanation after this bit that we're going to go over now, he's going to just add more details in. So this is what he says about, he's answering Narada's questions about what the universe is made of. He says, remember Narada wants to know what's it made of, what's beyond it, how does it get created, how does it get maintained, and how does it get destroyed? Those are his 5 questions. So the first one he answers is what's it made of. He says, the universe has 5 principles. It's made of 5 things. What do you think they are? Earth, water, fire, air, ether? No. That's not the level that he's talking on. Those are just the components of something called dravya, which is one of these 5 things. So he's not talking. He's got 5 principles that you've probably never heard before, and it's very interesting. That actually are the foundation of what the universe is. And then each of those 5 can be divided. Most of those 5 can be divided into different subcategories. So you can get 5, 10, 16 within one of those 5 things if you subdivide it. But on the most basic fundamental level, Brahma is saying there's 5 irreducible principles acting in the universe. And here's what they are: consciousness, psychology, time, activity, and objects. All of these 5 things are the supreme spiritual energy of Vasudev's son. These things are all Bhagavan's power. All 5 of these things: consciousness, psychology, time, activity, and objects. The fact is that none of them have any true existence separate from them. So all 5 of them are a manifestation of Bhagavan's power. Now let's explain this principle. And I'm going to give you some visuals because you need visuals to grasp most of this stuff. Okay, so the first principle is called jiva, which means the living conscious thing. Let me switch over to this. The living conscious being. That's the ultimate irreducible foundation of everything, of all of existence. Now, consciousness is not meaningful in any way unless it has something to be conscious of. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is awareness. So unless it has something to be aware of, it doesn't exist. So consciousness includes something to be conscious of. So consciousness comes with this thing called object, which is called in Sanskrit dravya. So these are the two most fundamental principles of the universe, and they're diametric in their relationship. Kind of like it's like a male female or a north south or a positive negative polarity to them. There's consciousness, which wants to experience, and then there's the object, which wants to be experienced. Jiva and dravya. But they're both a part of this one unit, which is Bhagavan's power. They're two discernible facets of this one thing, which is Bhagavan's power. Now, when we get into objects, the truth is there's not just one object. Consciousness manifests many, 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 many objects because it's not satisfied with just experiencing one thing. So we want to depict it like this. There's all sorts of categories and classes of objects with further subcategories and all that stuff. And these objects are the things that are made of earth, water, fire, are the five elements, mind, and all that stuff. Okay? So this covers what two of the five elements, jiva and dravya. Consciousness is what is the foundation of the universe, and object is the form of the universe, the shape of it. Now he says there's this thing called psychology. Let me explain what psychology is. Psychology is called swabhava. Psychology or disposition, or it's this word which means like identity, the individual psychology or the individual nature or the individual disposition. And what psychology does is you see how some of the objects on the bottom got kind of dulled out, and now one is just in focus. So psychology is determined by the consciousness having some kind of inherent preference towards certain types of experiences and away from other kinds of experiences. Every consciousness is discernible as individual mode or a quantum of consciousness because it has a particular take on the objects. It has a particular angle with which it looks at the same objects as other consciousness does. Other conscious quantums look. So the swabhava is the disposition that consciousness has to want to ignore certain objects or avoid certain objects, but want to experience other ones. And this is also inherent in the nature of consciousness itself. This is an integral part of Bhagavan's energy, of the energy that manifests reality. Consciousness will always come with its objects and therefore with its swabhava, or its disposition towards the objects. And that's how each mode of consciousness, each jiva, is discernible as an individual, because no two consciousness have exactly the same swabhava. No two consciousness have exactly the same preferences and dispreferences for objects. Or even beyond, more subtle than preferences and dispreferences, but no two modes of consciousness have the same exact experience of any given object, because each one has a different swabhava. So these are the three very fundamental. Now we covered three of the five, right? Three of the five things that really make reality. They make the universe. Now there's two other things to introduce. The next thing is karma, or action. And this is simply the way that because consciousness has the power to. This is consciousness's power or shakti to interact with the objects. Consciousness has the ability not just to experience the objects, but to interact with them. The experience is interactive. So it has a power for something called karma, which is action. It can do things with those objects. Just like I can move my hand. That's the power of consciousness to do karma. So action is something that results directly from the swabhava of the jiva. So karma is also an eternal principle because it comes with consciousness. It's integral to consciousness itself that it can experience, and interact. And the specific way that it experiences and interacts is called its psychology or its individuality, its swabhava, its disposition. I can't see any of your comments right now because I'm just looking at this graph. But if you're posting questions, I'll come back and look at those questions. All right, so karma is an eternal principle of reality itself. It's the ability for consciousness to do things with the objects that it wants to experience or wants to avoid. That's why I have the arrow kind of linked to the yellow arrow. Then finally, the fifth element, which is not the fifth fundamental irreducible principle of reality, is linked very closely to karma. It's kala, which is both the result of and an enabler of action. And the probably best way to translate it into English is time. But you could translate it in different ways that have contexts which are meaningful, like doom, fate, destiny. But essentially, it's time and action. Action can't proceed without time. That's the problem, I guess. Just like consciousness isn't meaningful without an object to be conscious of, action doesn't happen without time, because action means causing a change in the state of something. You want to interact with something, it means you want to change it from this position to that position, or give it this thing that it didn't have before, or take this thing from it that it didn't have before. So you're changing the thing by karma. Change requires time. So time is the fifth irreducible element, and it's directly related to action. And then it also produces this karma in the sense of result of action, which is like destiny and so forth. So these are the five irreducible principles of reality. A consciousness, which is really the fundamental thing. And then consciousness comes with objects, psychology towards those objects, which make the consciousness an individual, discernible individual, actions with that object, with those objects, which are facilitated by passing of time. Everything that exists in the universe can be fit into one of these five things. And actually, to be frank, most of everything that exists in the universe can be fit simply into the pink circle. Well, the objects, the dravya. Yeah. No. I mean, most of the things that you think of when you think of things in the universe will be in the pink thing. If you also think of the different kinds of actions that we can take and the different kinds of attitudes we have, and different types of identities, you'll realize that they are tons of those too, and therefore there's tons of jivas. All right, let's see if you got comments and questions about that. I'll leave this up on the screen, I think, so you can soak it in. Karen wants to know if awareness is a higher aspect of consciousness. No, awareness is what consciousness is. What else is consciousness except awareness? Consciousness is awareness. What about Akash space? It's a type of object. Shivaram, then what is moksha? If our individuality is going to be forever, because that's what we are, is there any improvements in the jiva? Then why in Purna mantra said we are complete? Okay, it's two questions. I don't know. Okay, so moksha means freedom, but freedom from what? So the problem with consciousness will have a problem only if it thinks of these five things as being separate from Bhagavan. Because then what it tries to do is experience life and existence in a way which is unrelated to the central point of reality. So it's like a circle trying to not have a center. When consciousness is unaware of Bhagavan, it's like a circle trying to be a circle without a center. Moksha means to be freed from the ignorance of Bhagavan, which causes this fragmented or fractured, differentiated sense of consciousness. The consciousness always has a swabhava, but when its object is Bhagavan, then the swabhava causes ananda. And the karma and the actions are lila, which cause ananda. But when the objects of consciousness are fractured from and removed from Bhagavan, who is the only source of rasa and pleasure, then the swabhava is the cause of actions which produce karma and klesha. So the swabhava and the consciousness are not a problem. They're not something that you need to be free from. What you need to be freed from is avidya. So that's the improvement in the jiva, is when it gets rid of its avidya. And why does the Purna mantra say we're complete? Actually, the Purna mantra is everything which springs from the complete is complete. And it doesn't mean that it can't be misused. I can have a completely good computer and spill soda on it. I can have a computer that's whole and perfect and working. I can have a body that's totally healthy and I can shove a knife in it. So it doesn't mean that something which is complete can't be misused or misunderstood. The jiva is fundamentally complete, but if it divorces from the complete, then its completeness is not there. That whole Purna mantra is because the source is perfect and complete, the emanation can be perfect and complete. AKS, are we talking about the limited consciousness, i.e. from Prakriti, and not the complete consciousness from the unmanifest Purusha? No. Consciousness is consciousness. Why differentiate and be a dualist? This is what consciousness does. In relationship to Dravya, Karen, Akash is a part of Dravya. It's a subdivision of Dravya. Any other questions? This is good stuff, right? What's going to happen next? I'll give you a little coming attraction on that. Just give me 1 second here. What will happen next? So that will be what we're going to cover tomorrow, is Brahma is going to answer the question of what's beyond the universe. Because that means, like, what is the universe founded on? Then he's going to explain how the universe evolves. And this is the interesting part. How do these 5 fundamental principles, I mean, it's also interesting what's beyond the universe, but this next thing, evolution of the universe, I don't know. It's very interesting. He's going to explain how these 5 irreducible principles of reality cause things to evolve. So, for example, how does Akash come about? How does space come about? How does earth, water, fire, air come about? How does mind come about? All these other more immediate building blocks of the universe, how are they produced from these 5 fundamental irreducible foundations of the universe? That's going to come, I think tomorrow we can get into that. It's very good stuff. But it'll probably take a couple of days to go over the whole thing. Bardo asks, at what level do alive or sentient manifestations, humans, animals, etc., get to be different from non-living manifestations? There's really no such thing as a non-living manifestation. There's just consciousness producing its form. And yeah, every form that you see is a product of consciousness, just like your body has been produced by some living force. So even atoms and everything are products of Paramatma, even just like the basic stuff in the universe. That's what Brahma is also going to explain. So there is no difference in anybody or anything except in the tool that they're currently using or manifesting, and how they're currently, the extent to which they're manifesting their consciousness. Somebody in the body of a mosquito is the same person that's in the body of Albert Einstein, but they've manifested a machine that's good for sucking blood and flying around, and not a machine that's good for comprehending physics. The consciousness will manifest different machines and forms based on what it's trying to accomplish, based on which objects and objectives it has a swabhava towards at that time. See, as we are in ignorance, currently the swabhava fluctuates because it's not finding satisfaction. So the swabhava is changing for us. Do you mean that every manifestation has consciousness? Not quite exactly, Simone. I mean that every manifestation is the product of consciousness. Consciousness is the actual reality, and things which are tangible are part of the consciousness. It's the tangible part of consciousness. I don't know how to explain it. Like my computer screen is the tangible output of all the electricity and the bits and everything that's going on inside the computer. In the same way, your body, somebody else's body, a table, a floor are the products of the other kind of electrical whatever that's on a lower level of what consciousness is. Would would you say that if we stop or slow time by meditating or making the mind sharp, we could interact with karma differently, or swabhava? As I say, a particle light photon is well, you can't really slow time down. You can only slow your perception down. The time is flowing based on the breath of the Purusha, which is something you can't control. So there is a universal time code. There's a time code in the universe which you have to sync up with, but your perception of it can distort based on how you're focusing. And basically, the more that you engage in activity, the faster your time goes, because you're always looking to the future and hoping for the result to come. And the more that you are not really engaging in ambitious action for the future, but contented action in the present, the more your reality expands, and the longer your life becomes subjectively. So yes, if you could slow down time, your life gets better. And the way you slow down time is by being less in the illusion that you need something that you don't already have. Is the anahata om part of this? Om is just a symbol for this. Om is a symbolic word, or a verbal encapsulation of consciousness. Okay. All right, I'm gonna close shop right here and see you tomorrow.